I want to speak very quickly, but I want to be equally very respectful in this national climate, discussing the issues around bullying, around school violence, and things that we have been seeing of that nature. Mr. Deputy Speaker and I join with several colleagues in expressing condolences to the family of young Jayden Lalchan. And as we grapple as a society with an instance of bullying that has led to the scariest of outcomes, we are faced with a lot of conversation about what can be done and what ought to be done. In 2020, I became a member of Parliament, and we had there were the COVID years with the virtual learning system, and we had students come back out into the physical school space. And then we saw a number of videos with particularly violent outbursts within the school system. And as I did then, and I will do now, and I will continue to do ad nauseum, within our school system, we have to find ways to include within the curriculum spaces that can help students deal with things like conflict resolution and anger management. We have to find ways, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to create safe spaces within what ought to be a safe space, but the reality is students themselves are dealing with difficult circumstances. Imagine adults found it difficult to cope with the pandemic and the fallout of the pandemic, and that you have children, literal children, who would have been in the virtual school system coming out and having to relearn socialization skills and getting adapted into that space, that we must give them a fighting chance, no pun intended, to succeed. And so, if in utilizing the space for the student support services and targeting the intervention of the guidance counselor, so it is not sufficient to have the program, but you have to let us know that you are constantly monitoring and evaluating the program to ensure that it is at optimal levels, so that it is meeting the needs. So that if your response, or any response, is that we do have student support services and it's funded to the tune of X million of dollars, all right, accepted. But in the space that we've seen for the past few years, what we have been seeing with respect to school violence and bullying, you have to make sure you are effectively spending that money that is going to the student support services. That where the schools that require extra support, and there are schools that require extra support, that they are receiving the targeted intervention necessary. And that, as with all things, Mr. Deputy Speaker, once you've tried everything, you have to be aware that persons within the school system must be aware as well that there must be consequences for actions as well. And that we have to move, again, if you do short-term interventions and you have your medium-term planning with curriculum development to include things like conflict resolution, anger management, etc., and then you have your longer-term measurable developed targets, you will be, again, on a better path to fighting the actual scourge, the problems that we're facing within our school system. And so, when I listened to the calls from the population, very frustrated, very sad, calling for something to be done, I think it is important that when reporting what was done, we are reporting equally that we are evaluating our tactics, because if we as the citizens are saying we are not seeing it working to an optimal level, then we must be prepared to act and change what needs to be changed so that they are working for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.